Youth Environmental Summit. Speaking on this session, we'll be talking about the Green Amendment. Before we get started, I'd like to remind our attendees that everyone is muted with video off. Please use the comment feature to the right of the screen throughout the session to share your questions and comments to our presenters. We'll be monitoring throughout the session, and we'll have a facilitated question and answer at the end, where you can use the grab mic by clicking the icon on the bottom corner, and we'll bring you up on the screen to ask a question. Please also feel free to use the reaction features if you hear an idea, want to share applause, or to celebrate. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their generous support of this year's conference. Please make sure to check out both of their booths in between sessions. To start, I'd like to introduce and have a round of applause for Casey Manahan, who is a senior attorney with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. She is a graduate of the Lewis and Clark School with a certificate in environmental natural resources and energy law. She lives in Philadelphia and enjoys running on trails with the Delaware River watershed. Additionally speaking will be Colleen Burns, who is the Green Amendment coordinator at Green Amendments for the Generations. She is a graduate of Fordham University with a bachelor's degree in Communication and Cultural Studies and a minor in Environmental Studies. In her role, she provides support to the Green Amendment movement, conducts research, helps craft new educational materials, and supports community outreach. Colleen, would you like to introduce the video?
Sure. So today we have a 30-minute short film called Here's the Story, The Green Amendment, which gives a background and overview of kind of the birth of the Green Amendment movement, which started out in Pennsylvania. And I also wanted to give a little shout out to Maria Payan, who I can see is in the room. She is our lead partner in the Delaware Green Amendment movement. So hi, Maria.
And with that, are you guys ready to start the video?
So I don't think we can see the video playing. Have you clicked?
I looked all over Western New Jersey.
You can't see it?
No, and I can kind of hear it. It just went in and out.
Across the creek, that's right behind
okay.
the cabin that I used to rent in Frenchtown, and it's a beautiful place. There's no way a pipeline.
Can you maybe pause and try again?
Profit for a gas company. That's it. At the cost.
It doesn't have a pause button.
Along the route.
Okay.
Dee also said we could try a different method of sharing it. It is a pretty long video, so I don't know if streaming it from YouTube is like a good idea because it might have some streaming glitching, but I could try that. I have the YouTube link.
Sure, I think that would be good if you could do that.
Sabin, go ahead and stop sharing and I'll share.
Am I actively sharing right now? It's not giving me.
I think maybe it says stop video sharing for me. I'll click that.
Okay. So I could see everything on my end.
So we couldn't.
But you couldn't? Could the audience see it?
It sounds like no. So
Okay.
If you could try and do that.
Yeah, can you send me the link?
So it's uploaded right now.
Oh,
If you
okay.
go share from attached file.
Yep. Got it. All right, I'm gonna try.
I can see it. Can others see it?
I can.
Okay, and you guys can all turn off your videos and we'll go full screen.
All right, guys. Thank you for that video, and I think I'm going to introduce Colleen first, and we're going to check to see if the second speaker, Casey, has her mic working yet. We had some problems before we started.
Oh, I think we lost you, Sabin.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Okay, I just said thank you guys for that video. And now we're going to be introducing our speakers again. Here is Colleen, and also speaking will be Casey, who had some mic issues, so we might be checking that for a second. And you can.
My name's Colleen Burns. I'm a full-time coordinator at Green Amendments for the Generation. So you saw Maya Van Rossum on the screen, so I work full-time for her. She is the founder. I think this is supposed to be an open Q&A. So if there are any questions in the comments that we can answer about where Delaware is or the Green Amendments in general, Casey Manahan she's an attorney at Delaware Riverkeeper Network. She's also trying to get on right now.
Can you hear me?
And I see her video coming up. Let's see if she is available.
Hello?
I can hear you, Casey.
You can?
I can't
Okay.
see you, but your audio is more important.
Good.
So Casey can answer a lot of the legal questions about Green Amendments, in case anyone has a question on there. So yeah. It looks like our first question is, Maya's a very strong speaker. Where did her passion come from? When did she first get involved as she is? I don't want to speak on her behalf, but she has definitely been connected to the environment as a child, and I think it has a lot to do with her family and her upbringing, that she's always felt a strong connection with nature. So I'll leave it at that. She's better qualified to answer that question.
All right, and our next question, maybe for Casey, is there any legal action going on in Delaware, or any group taking the lead on that right now?
I am not aware of any legal action in Delaware. Colleen might be more aware of if there are groups taking it on.
Yeah, so actually, Maria Payan is on the call right now, and she is our lead partner at Socially Responsible Agriculture Project. And so we're working with her right now, actually, to do coalition building and education to start a Green Amendment movement in Delaware. So hopefully, next year, everyone in Delaware will know about this and be thinking about this, and will be calling their legislators and stuff like that. But Green Amendments for the Generations is a partner organization. We do a lot of work in many states across the nation, but we do that work only when there is, efforts that want to be happening in those states. So either community members reach out, organizations reach out, or a legislator reaches out and wants to work on it in that state. And then we offer partnership and expertise just based off of Maya's experience at the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. And now that we have proposals in 11 states, we're also learning a lot as we go, and we can bring that to every new state that comes on board with this movement. So that's where we're at in Delaware, and hopefully we'll have more going on for you very soon.
And going off that, Stephanie Messenger said her students would love to get involved. What tips do you have for young people who are trying to get involved?
Well, young people, I think, are really, really powerful, just coming from their perspective of the next generation that has to deal with climate change and deal with the decisions that have been made for them by decision makers and legislators before them. So their voice is really, really important. And I think I can speak on behalf of Maya when we say that we would love to have youth involved in this movement too. So definitely can connect with Stephanie after this and figure out how to get students involved. We have a lot of students involved in our efforts in New Jersey and in Maine and in New Mexico. So there's definitely things that they can do. And also just their perspective is really convincing to legislators, and also their ability to like connect on social media with other people and spread the word is really useful.
Another question might be, what's the status in the other 11 states that you said had proposals? Are there any that have fully passed it besides?
Yeah, so there are 2 green amendments, one in Pennsylvania and one in Montana, and you learned about Pennsylvania on the video. The 11 states that have proposals right now are all in varying stages of what it takes to pass, and each state has a different process for passing an amendment. And so actually in New York, it's a pretty lengthy process, but they're the first one to have it passed by their legislature. So they had to have both the Assembly and the Senate vote for it twice and pass it twice. So that just happened last month. So it will now go on the ballot in November to be voted on by the people. So we're kind of transitioning there from, how do we transition to a ballot initiative and get the broad support for people to say, yes, I want a right to clean water and air. In other states like New Jersey and Maine and New Mexico, also Washington, they all have the potential to also get on the ballot very soon. So they're in legislative session right now, and if they get the votes that they need, they could also be on the ballot and be among one of the first modern day green amendments. I think I can see also in the chat, there are states that have green amendments. Just Pennsylvania and Montana. Montana is kind of a different story. Theirs was also passed around the same time as Pennsylvania in the 1970s. And so they're also kind of embracing it now in the modern day and using it more effectively than when it was first passed. And actually, we have a lot of resources on our website that talk about the different cases. If anyone was interested to see specific cases about how a green amendment has been used positively in Pennsylvania and Montana, they are on our website, and I can put that in the chat. And Casey is probably much better at explaining those than I am, being the attorney that she is. But I will put in the chat our website so that anyone who wants to check those out can.
Yeah, I would just add that there was a wave of amendments across the country right around the time, when environmental law really became a thing, which was around the late 60s, early 1970s. I don't know how many of you are aware of Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. That was really a trigger for a lot of people to recognize the issue of environmental degradation. And so a lot of states did amend their constitutions to specifically address environmental problems, including Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, as you saw in the documentary, included some strong language about environmental rights. And unfortunately, for many years, that language was not interpreted the way that it was intended to. And there are several other amendments in state constitutions that are interpreted not to have the same strong effect that a declaration of an inalienable right should have. So, modern day green amendments are designed specifically to be strong, like the Pennsylvania's green amendment is now.
Yeah, and I would also add there's places like Hawaii has really great language in their constitution, and we're also working there to pass even better language that really rises to green amendment level support. So they could also be one of the first few modern green amendments.
All right, I see some more questions in the chat. Leanne Harvey asks, a lot of environmental problems don't have borders. Are you guys pursuing a green amendment on the federal level?
Yeah, so I think Maya definitely wants to pursue one on the federal level, but there are multiple reasons to start with the states first. One of them being that in order to get a federal amendment passed, you have to have state support to ratify that. And so, what better way than to start on the state level to then say, like, it's working here and then show that support that way? And then another reason being that state government is really important too, and that there's a lot you can do on the state level with a green amendment. I don't know if Casey can speak to that also.
Yeah, I would agree with exactly what you said, Colleen. And also, states do have a lot of different powers that sometimes the federal government doesn't have over certain decisions about resources. You know, the federal government is limited in its powers. So when a state has a green amendment, that will affect more resources within that state than, let's say, if the federal government had a green amendment and the state did not.
Yeah, and also on that note, there are state-specific issues that go into consideration when each state is developing the language of their green amendments. As we saw in the video, there are definitely some essentials that are definitely needed to rise to the occasion to be a green amendment. But there are also some things that other states have specific environmental issues that care more about. For example, the word cultural was added into New Mexico language, the cultural values of the environment, speaking to indigenous values to sacred lands. And so that is actually being used in Maine as well. And so there are different states that would benefit from a specific state green amendment than a general federal one.
And it seems like the general consensus is that no one's really arguing that people should have this right. But what are you guys facing as the actual pushback or legal arguments when trying to push these in new states?
One of the biggest ones is that we already have environmental laws, but I think we can tell that our environmental laws aren't working, and that we need something stronger that can be preventative from the get-go rather than focusing on permitting and managing. Other opposition mostly I think would come from industry, and it's about money, but I think we've also seen time and again that, clean energy and sustainable action can also be profitable for the economy. So that's kind of just a talking point that you have to make. Casey, I don't know if you have anything to add to that but I was just thinking from a legal perspective, you might have thought of something that I haven't.
Yeah, I think one of the common refrains is that this is going to completely freeze development. No one's going to be able to build anything. No one's going to be able to. How is society going to progress if we can't? Industry can't be allowed to do what it wants to do. But with the Green Amendment, the development still happens. Society goes on. Innovations still occur. Things are still built, but it's done in a sustainable way. And when the government is involved and they need to make decisions, they need to consider the environmental rights before they make these decisions. So it just gets it to the point where our environmental rights are not degraded in the name of progress. They are considered along with progress and made a priority.
Yeah, and Casey, can you also speak to one of the big one that I just thought of, one of the big pushback is that it's going to make a lot of litigation, and that just everyone will be flooded with litigation with a Green Amendment.
Well, I think the answer to that is that if the state and all of its subdivisions, the counties, the cities, the agencies, the environmental protection agencies within the state, if they understand their responsibilities under the Green Amendment and they do a robust analysis of the decisions they make, then litigation won't be necessary. So if the government takes its role seriously, then there shouldn't be more of a problem than, there should be no increase in the baseline right now.
And we really haven't seen like a flood of litigation in Montana and Pennsylvania. And most times I think those cases would be brought forth anyway. They just wouldn't have had the argument that a Green Amendment was being violated, that environmental rights were being violated.
Right. And another question in the chat is, what did you guys study in college, and how did you guys end up working for the Riverkeeper Network?
So I actually was in college not too long ago. I graduated in 2019. I went to Fordham University in New York City, and I studied communication and cultural studies with a concentration in media, actually. But I was really interested in the environment and involved in a lot of environmental activities in college. So I have a minor in environmental studies. And so this is my first full-time job outside of college. I started over a year ago at Green Amendments for the Generations. And a lot of what I do is varied because we're a really small organization. So I do a lot of, press releases and grant writing and social media content, but also helping from a program perspective, listening in on strategy meetings, crafting action alerts, stuff like that.
And similar to Colleen's story, when I was in college, I majored in media and communications. I graduated back in 2009. And then, that was during the recession. So my first job out of school was not the best job. And so eventually I decided to start on a legal career path. I took a course at the community college for paralegal studies. I became a paralegal. And then about 3 years later, after working at a law firm, I decided to go to law school. And I was, I took you have to law, and their brochure was all, it was beautiful photos of the environment out in the Pacific Northwest, and said, why don't you study environmental law? And, like many people who are interested in the environment, you kind of have that connection your whole life. And it's something that just triggered it in me. That's amazing. I can study environmental law. I can do, I can work in something that I really care about and that I love. And so I went to Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon, and it was a great program there, and made it my goal to, once I got out, that I would work in environmental law, and that's what I'm doing.
That's great. Thank you both. We're running into the last few minutes, so I wanted to thank you guys for taking your time to speak at this event. I would just like to ask everyone real quick, if you want to, we're going to take a group selfie. So if everyone turns on their camera, we'll take a screenshot of everyone at this presentation. And then afterwards,
the audience can't, but but you and the speaker.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for clearing that up. And after that, I will. I have put everyone's name in for the raffle, and I'll be announcing that in just a second.
And I'll put my email in the chat for anyone who wants to get involved in Delaware specific work.
Okay. So we'd like to thank all of our session sponsors. Feel free to stop by at their sessions. Up next, I think, is the last event for the day, our debrief session. So thank you again to our speakers today, Colleen and Casey, and another thank you to our sponsors.
Thanks so much for having us.
Very much.
And
Yes, thank you for sharing your insight with us. That video was very compelling, and we hope to use your video on our website. So there is a closing session where Senator Chris Coons will be speaking, as well as Bethany Hall-Long. So don't miss that. And Sabin, if you would go ahead and announce the winner.
all right, Pierre Paulo Aguenta. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but you just won the raffle.
Yay, Pierre.
All right, and I think that is all. Pierre, I'll send, if you could just send me your email, and I can get that out for you. All right.
All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for coming. Sabin, great job with your moderating, and Casey and Colleen, thank you so much. We hope to work with you in the future.
Thank you.
Okay.